There are moments in life when everything seems ordinary on the surface, yet something in your spirit feels unsettled. As a chosen one, you must understand that divine warnings often come before major turning points. God does not interrupt your peace without purpose. When He is preparing to shift your life, elevate your calling, or reposition your path, He will also guard you from distractions and hidden dangers. The warning may not arrive with loud signs. It may come as a repeated thought during prayer, a scripture that stands out unexpectedly, or a quiet unease that refuses to fade. These moments are not accidents. They are invitations to pause and listen. When God begins to signal caution, it is because something significant is ahead. He sees the outcome before you ever see the beginning. Where you see potential, He sees consequence. Where you see emotion, He sees impact. Divine warnings are not meant to frighten you. They are meant to align you. If you ignore them, you may walk into lessons that could have been avoided. But if you respond with humility and obedience, you step into protection. Being chosen does not mean you are immune to mistakes. It means you are given insight before the mistake becomes damage. The warning is evidence that heaven is invested in your destiny. God speaks before doors close. He speaks before betrayal unfolds. He speaks before attachments grow too deep. When you feel that inner caution, do not silence it. Pray deeper, listen longer. Trust that the one who called you is also committed to keeping you. As a chosen one, you cannot rely only on what your eyes see or what your ears hear. Spiritual discernment is the quiet strength that protects you from hidden harm. It is not suspicion. It is not fear. It is the ability to sense when something is out of alignment with God's will for your life. Many people move based on emotion, attraction, or pressure, but when you are called by God, you must move by discernment. This awareness often feels subtle. It may show up as a lack of peace when everyone else seems comfortable. It may surface as a hesitation when logic says everything is fine. Discernment does not always provide full explanations immediately. Sometimes it simply tells you to slow down, to observe, to pray more. That pause can save you from deep regret. Hidden harm rarely announces itself openly. It disguises itself as opportunity, as companionship, as support. But the Spirit of God searches deeper than appearances. When you maintain a consistent prayer life, your spiritual senses become sharper. You begin to notice patterns in behavior, inconsistencies in words, and changes in atmosphere that others overlook. This is not to make you fearful of people. It is to make you wise. Being chosen means your destiny carries weight. Not everyone assigned to you is sent to bless you. Some are lessons, and some are distractions. Discernment allows you to recognize the difference before attachment forms. If something feels repeatedly unsettled in your spirit, do not dismiss it as overthinking. Bring it before God. Ask for clarity. Ask for confirmation. Trust that He will guide you step by step. Protection often begins with perception. When you honor the inner warning instead of silencing it, you remain guarded without becoming guarded in heart. Discernment is not about pushing people away. It is about allowing God to filter who truly belongs in your life. Not every person who appears supportive is sent by God, and this is a truth that chosen ones must learn with wisdom rather than fear. Sometimes support can look genuine on the surface. Words may be encouraging, presence may be consistent, and actions may seem thoughtful. Yet alignment is deeper than appearance. Just because someone stands near your purpose does not mean they are assigned to protect it. There is a difference between being present and being planted by God. When you are walking in a calling, you will attract many voices. Some will cheer for you sincerely, others will cheer because they benefit from your access, your favor, or your future. This is why you must pray for clarity instead of assuming connection equals covenant. God does not measure relationships by excitement or intensity. He measures them by fruit. Does the connection bring peace or pressure? Does it draw you closer to obedience or slowly normalize compromise? Chosen ones must examine patterns, not promises. Anyone can speak well in the beginning. Anyone can show consistency for a season. But only those aligned with God's purpose for you will remain steady when obedience requires sacrifice. Be careful of relationships that rush intimacy, demand loyalty without accountability, or subtly compete with your spiritual growth. True support strengthens your faith. False support drains your focus. God may allow someone to enter your life for a time, but that does not mean they are meant to stay. Discernment requires patience. Do not label every connection as destiny too quickly. Let time reveal character. Let prayer reveal intention. When you seek God sincerely, He will expose what is artificial and confirm what is authentic. You do not have to confront every misalignment immediately. Sometimes simply stepping back is enough. Remember, being chosen means your relationships must reflect your assignment. Not everyone who smiles at your future is meant to walk into it. Trust God to filter who truly belongs. God rarely reveals everything at once. For chosen ones, truth often comes in stages because your heart must be prepared to carry what is shown. If He exposed every hidden intention immediately, the weight of it could overwhelm you. Instead, He unfolds understanding layer by layer. At first, you may only sense a slight discomfort. Then you may notice small inconsistencies. Later, conversations begin to feel different, and clarity slowly replaces confusion. This is not delay. This is divine preparation. God values your emotional and spiritual stability, so He gives revelation according to your readiness. When you rush for answers, you may misinterpret the process, but when you trust His timing, you begin to see that each stage was necessary. The first hint teaches you to pay attention. The second confirmation teaches you to pray deeper. The final revelation teaches you to act with courage. If you are sensing that something is being uncovered gradually, do not ignore the progression. Patterns matter. Repeated signals matter. When the same concern surfaces in prayer, in scripture, and in your quiet thoughts, it is not random. God is building your discernment so that when the full truth arrives, you are steady enough to receive it. The unveiling of a situation or a person is not meant to embarrass you for not seeing it sooner. It is meant to protect you from going further without awareness. Trust the process of gradual revelation. Instead of demanding immediate clarity, ask for strength to respond when clarity comes. Chosen ones grow through understanding, and when God reveals truth in stages, it is always for preservation, not punishment. Emotional attachment can quietly cloud spiritual judgment, especially for those who care deeply and love sincerely. As a chosen one, your heart is not weak, but it is powerful, and anything powerful must be guarded wisely. When you begin to value someone's presence, your desire to see the best in them can overshadow the warning signs that God is gently revealing. Feelings are not wrong. Connection is not wrong. But when attachment grows faster than discernment, clarity becomes blurred. You may start justifying behavior that once concerned you. You may silence your inner caution because you do not want to lose what feels meaningful. This is how emotional investment can slowly compete with spiritual awareness. God understands your desire for companionship and support, but He also sees when attachment begins to override obedience. The danger is not love itself. The danger is ignoring truth in order to protect a feeling. Chosen ones must learn to pause and evaluate. Ask yourself whether this connection strengthens your faith or weakens your peace. Notice if you are becoming more prayerful or more distracted. Emotional bonds can create loyalty before trust has been proven. They can create defense for someone who has not demonstrated consistency in character. When you feel yourself becoming defensive over concerns that once felt valid, that is a sign to step back and pray. God does not remove people to leave you empty. He separates you from what could slowly drain your calling. If you sense that your emotions are louder than your discernment, return to prayer. Ask God to realign your heart with His truth. It is better to endure temporary disappointment than long-term regret. Your destiny deserves clarity, not confusion. Guard your heart without hardening it, and trust that what God truly sends will never require you to silence your inner warning. Prayer is not a ritual for chosen ones. It is a shield, a filter, and a source of clarity that exposes what charm tries to conceal. When you consistently enter the presence of God, you invite light into places where confusion once lived. Deception cannot remain comfortable under sincere prayer. If someone's intentions are not aligned with your destiny, prayer will begin to reveal it. You may start noticing contradictions between words and actions. You may sense discomfort during conversations that once felt effortless. You may even feel a strong impression to create distance without fully understanding why. This is how prayer sharpens awareness. It does not always give you dramatic signs. It gives you steady conviction. The more you pray, the less you rely on emotion, and the more you rely on peace as confirmation. Peace is one of God's clearest signals. When it disappears repeatedly around a certain situation, that absence speaks loudly. Chosen ones must not ignore that signal. Prayer also strengthens courage. It prepares you to act on what you discern. Sometimes the hardest part is not recognizing the truth, but accepting it. Through prayer, your confidence shifts from people to God. You begin to understand that losing the wrong connection is protection, not punishment. Prayer realigns your priorities and reminds you that your calling is greater than temporary attachment. If you have been sensing confusion, do not seek answers in conversation alone. Seek them in communion with God. Stay consistent even when clarity feels delayed. Over time, what is hidden will surface, what is false will weaken, and what is truly meant for you will remain steady without manipulation or pressure. Prayer does not just reveal deception, it fortifies you so that when revelation comes, you respond with wisdom instead of fear. Obedience is often the quiet decision that saves you from loud regret. As a chosen one, you may clearly sense when God is directing you to step back, to slow down, or to release a connection that feels meaningful. The instruction may not always come with a full explanation. Sometimes it is simply a deep knowing that continuing forward will cost you more than you realize. This is where obedience becomes crucial. It is easy to agree with God when His direction aligns with your desires. It is harder when His warning challenges your emotions. Yet, delayed obedience can open doors to prolonged lessons. When you ignore repeated caution, you may find yourself entangled in situations that drain your peace and distract you from your assignment. God does not command separation to limit your joy. He commands it to prevent long-term damage. Obedience requires trust. It requires believing that God sees the full picture while you only see a part. You may not immediately understand why a certain person must be kept at a distance. You may question whether you are overreacting, but when the same instruction continues to surface in prayer and in your spirit, it is wisdom to respond. Chosen ones must learn that peace is more valuable than temporary excitement. The sooner you obey, the lighter the transition becomes. Disobedience often leads to emotional exhaustion and unnecessary conflict. Obedience, though sometimes painful at first, brings stability. It protects your focus, your calling, and your spiritual growth. You are not losing when you follow God's warning. You are preserving your future. Trust that any door He asks you to close is one that would have eventually closed on you in a harsher way. Acting quickly on divine instruction is not weakness, it is strength guided by faith. There are times when God does not just warn you about behavior, but about identity. The revelation of a name can feel unexpected, even unsettling, because names carry familiarity, memories, and trust. When a specific person is placed clearly in your spirit during prayer, it is not meant to create panic. It is meant to bring precision. God is not vague when your destiny is involved. If a name keeps resurfacing in your thoughts, in your quiet time, or through repeated confirmations, do not dismiss it as coincidence. Chosen ones must understand that accountability begins with recognition. Once the identity is clear, denial is no longer protection. Clarity requires response. The shock you may feel is often connected to your expectations. Perhaps you believed this person would always support you. Perhaps you assumed their presence was permanent. But God values your purpose more than your assumptions. When He highlights a name, He is separating truth from comfort. This revelation is not about humiliation. It is about direction. Now you know where to establish boundaries. Now you know where to guard your heart. Ignoring the identity once revealed can lead to deeper disappointment because awareness increases responsibility. You cannot unknow what God has shown you. The moment of clarity is also a moment of empowerment. You are no longer confused about where your unrest originated. You are no longer questioning your discernment. Instead of reacting emotionally, respond prayerfully. Seek wisdom on how to proceed with maturity and peace. Sometimes the instruction will be distance. Sometimes it will be confrontation with grace. Either way, the exposure of a name is an act of protection. God speaks specifically because your future is specific. Trust that what feels shocking now will later feel like mercy. There comes a moment when everything you have sensed begins to connect. As a chosen one, you may have felt the warning, noticed the patterns, prayed through the confusion, and wrestled with your emotions. But now clarity stands before you, asking for a decision. This stage is not about discovery anymore. It is about direction. When God has confirmed something repeatedly, hesitation can become resistance. You might still hope the situation will change. You might wait for one more sign, one more conversation, one more reassurance. Yet deep within, you already know. This is where spiritual maturity is revealed. It is not measured by how loudly you speak about faith, but by how firmly you act on what God has shown you. Delaying action can slowly reopen doors that were meant to close. It can blur boundaries that were meant to protect you. Clarity without response creates inner tension. You will feel restless because obedience has been postponed. Chosen ones must understand that peace often follows decisive faith. When you align your actions with the warning you received, confusion begins to lift. Strength replaces doubt. Even if emotions resist, your spirit will feel steadier. This is not about reacting impulsively. It is about moving responsibly with the awareness God has given you. Take time to pray, but do not use prayer as an excuse to avoid obedience. When the path is illuminated, walk it. When the truth is revealed, accept it. Your future is too valuable to remain stuck in hesitation. The final step of any divine warning is action, and when you choose alignment over attachment, you step into protection, growth, and renewed clarity for the journey ahead. Protection and destiny are intertwined for the chosen ones, and God's warnings are never random. When He speaks about a person or a situation, it is not to create fear, but to ensure alignment with your purpose. Every caution, every inner hesitation, every repeated impression in prayer is a layer of divine safeguarding. Chosen ones must recognize that their assignment carries weight beyond personal desires, beyond social expectations, beyond temporary comfort. God sees the full picture while you see only fragments. The warning is a chance to adjust your path before damage occurs. It is a moment to exercise faith over familiarity, wisdom over impulse, and obedience over emotion. Sometimes the protective message comes gently, almost imperceptibly through repeated nudges in your heart. Other times, it is undeniable, confronting you with clarity that cannot be ignored. Regardless of the method, the principle remains the same. Your destiny matters more than the temporary connection, no matter how appealing it may seem. The purpose of warning is not to isolate you, but to preserve you. Every instruction to pause, to observe, or to distance yourself is a chance to maintain integrity and peace. By responding with obedience, you safeguard your calling, your spiritual focus, and the long-term fruit of your life. Ignoring divine guidance often results in lessons that are heavier than necessary, and sometimes those lessons come at the cost of relationships, opportunities, or personal peace. But when you embrace the warning, you step into a space of protection. God does not reveal what is harmful to punish you, but to preserve your future. Chosen ones must learn to trust that God's insight surpasses their understanding. When a name, a pattern, or a warning is confirmed repeatedly, hesitation becomes unnecessary. Action is required. Acting on divine insight brings freedom, even if it initially feels uncomfortable. You gain clarity that aligns your heart, mind, and spirit with God's will. You gain strength to navigate relationships with wisdom. You gain peace that transcends temporary confusion. Every warning is an invitation to align with destiny, not to react out of fear. As you recognize these signals and respond faithfully, you walk with confidence, knowing that God's protection accompanies your obedience. Your steps are no longer uncertain. Your path is illuminated. And even when the revelation shocks or challenges you, it ultimately serves your highest good. Trust in the divine process, obey the warning, and move forward, knowing your purpose is guarded and your future is secure. Every chosen one is called to vigilance, not paranoia. God's warnings are designed to sharpen awareness, not to create constant fear. Life presents countless relationships, opportunities, and influences, but not all are aligned with the path He has prepared for you. When a caution arises in your spirit, it is often subtle. A persistent thought, a recurring unease, a moment of discomfort that refuses to fade. These signals are intentional. They are God's way of preparing you for what lies ahead. Chosen ones must learn to interpret them correctly. Disregarding these promptings can lead to unnecessary setbacks, while embracing them allows for clarity, peace, and spiritual protection. The key is not overreacting to every fleeting concern, but to test every impression through prayer, reflection, and scripture. The Spirit often communicates through layers, offering gentle hints before presenting the full picture. This gradual revelation ensures that your heart is ready, your mind is clear, and your spirit is fortified to respond appropriately. It is not a test of fear, it is a test of faith. You may find yourself questioning whether the concern is valid, whether you are being too cautious, or whether your emotions are exaggerating the situation. These doubts are natural. Yet repeated patterns, consistent nudges in prayer, and ongoing confirmation from God indicate that attention is required. Chosen ones must remember that discernment is not just about spotting danger, it is about protecting destiny. Every warning, every nudge, every unsettling thought is an opportunity to align more fully with God's purpose. It is a chance to pause, reflect, and act wisely before consequences manifest. When clarity arrives, do not resist it out of attachment or comfort. Accept it with humility, courage, and faith. The name, the situation, or the lesson that God highlights is always meant to guide, protect, and preserve, never to punish. Responding faithfully to these divine signals ensures that your steps remain aligned with your calling. Your journey is sacred, and each instruction from heaven is a safeguard. Obedience transforms caution into freedom, awareness into empowerment, and revelation into action. Chosen ones who heed these warnings move forward not with uncertainty, but with confidence, trusting that God's protection accompanies their obedience, and that every step taken in faith leads them closer to the destiny they were created to fulfill.